After I got everything fixed with the shifter, I headed over to the island right next to Naxos, the island of Paros. We've got forecasted a strong southerly blow, and the harbor here in Naxos is completely open and exposed to the south. But over on Paros, it is completely protected because I'm on the north part of the island. I'm on my way to Volos. That's where I've been headed since I left Crete a while ago. I've been kind of bouncing past islands for a few different reasons. One, I'm trying to get to Volos relatively quickly, and it's a far way to go when you're single-handing. I mean, I could do it much longer days and shorten the amount of time that it takes to get to Volos by a good amount, but it's still hundreds of miles, and so that just takes a while. It's been on and off raining today, and we got a bit of a blow. It's blowing pretty much a consistent 25 knots, gusting over 30. Yesterday when I got here, I was like, the third or fourth boat that arrived, and now I counted this morning and there's over 50 in this bay. Even just in a small blow like this isn't anything too crazy. The people who are inexperienced stand out like a sore thumb because they end up anchoring too close to people like this guy. He was like one of the latest people in, or you've got a catamaran and another sailboat over off of my starboard who are both having issues with their anchor dragging. It's one of those things where you end up in a semi-crowded anchorage like this and you're just kind of like, I hope everybody knows what they're doing, because if I'm in the back, I mean, that gives me room that if I need to, I could drag and I wouldn't have any issues. But then if anybody in front of me drags, then they hit me. Or you're in the front and it's like, okay, if I were to accidentally drag, I would hit other boats, but I'm not gonna have any issues with people dragging and hitting me. I mean, ideally you just don't drag, but I've drug anchor before, not in this amount of wind, but in more wind than this. And so it's always in my mind. Right now I'm in the mode of trying to get somewhere. I've been in this mode a few different times, sailing through Croatia and a few other places. I'm working my way over to mainland Greece and up to Volos in a day sail type fashion. So I'm not really sailing anything more than 35 miles in a day. Nothing more really than 7 hours worth of sailing in a day. Resting on anchor and then getting up and sailing the next day. And so island hopping without going on land. This is the kind of sailing that some people don't necessarily think about when, they imagine the dream sailing and it's summertime and you're just relaxing on the beach and the weather is beautiful and everything like that. But when you've got to move the boat long distances, you can either do it in one sail and then it's a multi-day sail, day and night, or you can do it in day sails in which you then need many days, if not weeks, to travel a distance that in a ferry or in a car could take you hours. It does a lot of things to you when you're making that progress. One, it makes you realize how big the world is. It gives you some sort of idea of the scale of where you're at, the country and the planet Earth. That it's really big. We're on a really big planet. It's just we've figured out how to move very, very fast via trains, planes, and automobiles. And even on boats, some boats go really fast. Liveaboard sailboats do not go fast. And so because of that, you're forced into a different perspective on the world. Beautiful sailing today in Greece. I mean, we got like 15 knots of wind on the mainsail in the Genoa, just ripping along at like 6.5, 7 knots. And Greece is wonderful for sailing. It's perfect. I mean, I look around and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 10, 11 different islands, all within a 35, 40 mile radius. So that's all within a day's sail. And I mean, next few days there's gonna be like no weather, and I'm sailing to one of my favorite spots in Greece. The island itself is like a little bit nondescript. It's nothing special. It's except for it has hot springs, and I love hot springs. Oh my God, hot springs I love them. Hot springs and saunas. If I could have a hot spring and a sauna every day, I would live and die a happy man. That's the first person I think I've ever outsailed and beat in a race. I mean, we're not racing, but coming from the same spot, going to the same spot. And when I was all the way over by that island, by Syros, we were basically in line. And in fact, he probably had a bit of a better position than I did because he was a bit more north. So technically, I think he had less distance. Did this little passage at like a solid 6.5, 6. I think right now the average is 6.4. Slowing down a bit now, getting closer to the island, starting to slow down a bit, but still moving good at like 4.5, 5 knots, and don't have very much longer to go. Everybody talks about the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and I understand what they mean, but people forget that the world is a very big place. When you're in modern civilization, especially like America or a very modern place in Europe, then everything feels connected. You can get anything that you want. You have clean water, food, and anything you want to buy online gets shipped right to your door. And with the move towards location independence, digital nomadicism, the concept of being remote is kind of going away because you can work from anywhere. I can work from anywhere. Anywhere I have the internet, I can work. It's getting to be that time of year where everything is closing and hardly any people are around. Both good and bad. I eat some food, and then by the time I'm done eating, it's dark out. So I go over to the hot springs and hang out in the hot springs and then make my way back to the boat. And then the next day, it's time to start sailing again. And now I've got a northerly wind. And I knew this setting sail that I was going to have a north wind, so I was going to have to go dead into the wind to get around the north of the island, and then I would be able to sail west. This is a legit amount of wind. This is gnarly. I don't know why I didn't think about this. I think it's just been a while since I've had to go dead into 25 knots of wind, but it was very slow. And so, I was thinking 2.5 miles will take me maybe half hour to get around the island, but going dead into the wind, full throttle, I'm only going about 3 knots. So instead of half hour, it's going to be an hour. There was one wave that the bow went down and basically dove into the wave, and the wave broke completely over the boat. It was the biggest wave break I've ever had over the boat, where it brought the boat to a complete stop. And I've only got these few frames because it's a time lapse, but it completely stopped the boat, and then I had to pick up momentum and speed again. But that was wild. When everything is online and there's so much interconnectivity by the whole world, global trade, and you can be connected with anybody around the globe. You can call somebody halfway across the world and see their face while you talk to them. And for me, I spend so much time online that I get removed from the physical world sometimes. I heard a quote in the series Black Sails. It was Captain Charles Vane, and he said, if you live on an island too long, you forget that there's a whole wide world out there. And the same thing happens wherever you are. You create an island by how far you travel, right? Like if you live in a city, your whole day-to-day life is a 10-mile radius, a 50-mile radius, then that becomes your island because you never go outside of that, and that becomes very normal and what you're used to, and you get caught up in that, and the world shrinks around that. It can be hard to remember there's so much more going on out there, that there's 7 billion people living their lives, and everybody has a story just as deep as you do. You got the North Pole, the South Pole, you got penguins, you got whales, you got jaguars, you've got the Amazon, you've got the Congo. There's so much going on that we get caught up and wrapped up in our little bubble. But when you're forced to move slow, in getting to where you're wanting to go is a challenge, and it's difficult, it's not easy, then you get placed back into the world and placed back into what it means to be a living creature navigating through reality. And that is that it's difficult and it takes time, and you're really here on the planet moving. You're not in some abstracted world that is digital and just imaginary. You're in the world, and what's happening matters. What the weather is doing matters. What the water is doing matters. When you're leaving matters. When you're arriving matters. It's the anchor holding. It reminds you that it's all real. I think sometimes because how much time we can spend in entertainment, watching YouTube videos, watching Netflix series, watching movies, reading books, listening to podcasts, playing video games, all of these things that in a sense aren't real. I think maybe because we see so much, the hero always makes it through. Even though there's all this risk, it's okay, they're the hero, they're the protagonist, they're gonna make it through. They're gonna pull off the impossible. And so we think of ourselves in that way that, we can do anything. And I'm not saying that we can't do anything. What I'm saying is that you have to be realistic with what is going on in the world. What is going on with your life? What are your skills? What are you capable of? It's understanding risk, understanding that there is a potential of things going wrong and there is a potential of things going badly. Shit just got real. That's what people say. Shit just got real. Like, there's no rules. Things could go bad. Things could definitely go bad. You're not guaranteed anything. Like, the only thing you're guaranteed is that you're going to die. You're going to die. That's guaranteed. Other than that, nothing else is guaranteed. Nothing else is owed to you. You're not entitled to anything. So you can skate through life and cruise through life on autopilot and not, wake up 40 years later and wonder what happened in your life and maybe think of all of it as a dream. Or you can get out there and live your life and experience it the way that it was meant to be for you. And you can know that it's real.